Greetings and welcome back, travelers. This is For Azeroth, a podcast all about Warcraft. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, and I'm joined, as I always am, with Jocelyn Moffett. Welcome back, Jocelyn. Happy Wintervale.
Happy Wintervale to you too, Garrett.
And we're saying that because this is our last episode for the next 2 weeks. We will not be doing one next week because it's really close to Christmas. You're traveling, Jocelyn, and I'll be partying with family.
Fair enough. I too shall be partying with family. I just have family all over the place.
Yeah, I don't get to say I'm traveling for that, though, because like my folks live like 30 minutes south. It's not that hard to go say hi to my parents. Which right now my mom, her ears are perking up saying, "Oh, really? Well, then why don't you visit more often?"
Yeah, you're totally setting yourself up for failure with that one.
Yeah, well, it happens. It happens. Anyways, just to get it out in the open, yes, we both have different hair if you're watching the video version. Things change.
It's Happy Christmas hair.
It is Happy Christmas hair. You've got a Christmas blue and I've got a Christmas mohawk. Yeah. Goes all the way around. Yeah.
That's very fancy.
All right. So
I should try doing that. I think I mean I'm not quite fully shaved on the sides, but it's pretty short. I should try just like sticking it up and see what happens.
You could. What you do, you gather the sides and you comb it back, and then you find your center and you spike that. You can still do it. It takes a little more finesse. It's easier when all the other hair is just missing. But yeah.
I'm going to try it now. I'm excited. Maybe I'll do that for TAC tomorrow.
Nice. Do it. Do it. Yeah, well, for one of these For Azeroths, we should come on and cosplay of like a race or something. Undead, they've got the mohawks.
For a second, I thought you were going to say cosplay as each other, and I'm like, that's just going to get weird, Garrett.
Really weird. That'd be extremely weird. Why would your brain go there, Jocelyn?
Because I said I was going to do the mohawk like you, and then so you would have to do something like me.
Not where I was going at all whatsoever. Don't need to wear Jocelyn clothes.
I've heard you know how to do eyeliner, though, so...
Used to. It's been a long time. And it's called guy liner when it's on a guy, Jocelyn. Get it right.
Is it?
Get it right. Yeah. So, anyways, I can't wait to see the emails about this little conversation. Let's move into World of Warcraft news and not men's cosmetics. Although I think Blood Elves, regardless of gender, do a little touch up in the morning. I'm just gonna
there's some
put that out
there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's be honest.
Yep. Anyway, there's the PTR is still very much alive and very much well. Been moving forward with their micro holiday testing. They've tested so many micro holidays at this point. Since we last recorded, there have been 3 new ones in the last week. Ungoro Madness, which features dinosaurs from different expansions, apparently stomping all over us. Huzzah, I still remember the first time I was killed by a Devilsaur. It was the first time I ever walked into Ungoro Crater, and I stood there kind of mouth agape going, whoa, and then, whoa, no, and then I was dead.
Well, the thing about Ungoro Crater is that, like, normally in Warcraft, as a rule, I guess the Fell Reaver in Hellfire Peninsula was the other one that didn't really pay attention to this rule, but if you stay to the road, you're pretty safe, generally. Some things may path close to the road, but you're much less likely to run into mobs than if you were to just run through the wilderness. So I'm walking through Ungoro Crater. I'm on the road. I'm heading to like the quest hub right in the middle where you're supposed to go. And I'm just like doing the same thing you were, like, oh, look. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's big. Oh, that's really big. It's coming right for me. And one shot.
Yep, exactly. So
one shot me, not one shot it. It destroyed me.
Yeah, I know. I got totally trampled, and it happened all over again at the beginning of Burning Crusade. I'm like, oh man, the Dark Portal, this is so cool. Oh, I've got a quest to go kill boars again. Okay, that's not so cool now that I'm, 60 and moving towards 61. All right, killing the boars. What is that? And
all of a sudden,
yep. I don't know how something that big sneaks up on you, but it happens. Anyway, so I guess in this micro event, dinosaur elites spawn around the zone with 230 million HP. They'll also be marked on the map with a big red X.
So basically they're just big elites for groups to go and kill. But they haven't said, like, as far as I know, like, there's no actual rewards for this one. Like, there's no mount, there's no pet, there's, I guess you'll get gold or something, maybe garrison resources, or not garrison resources, order hall resources. But one way or another, it doesn't seem too rewarding. The other ones that they've actually talked about, specifically the Glow Cap Festival that they tested out in the PTR, this one actually has a really great reward if you haven't actually done the Zangarmarsh rep grind with Spore Rigger. I'm exalted, but I know not everybody is, and it's one of the ones tied to an achievement. They have some cool pets that you can buy once you're, I think, revered, if not exalted. And so that Glowcap Festival event is actually like you can buy items for glow caps and you have to try to keep a mob alive. Eventually it will die, but when it dies, the number of stacks that you have of the buff on the mob will actually give you 50 reputation for each stack. So the longer you can keep it alive and the more stacks you can get on it, the more rep you're going to earn. And you can do this over and over and over again. So it would not be unheard of to hit exalted in a day just by, doing this event a few times. So that seems to me like worth it and really rewarding. So then the Ungoro Madness one, I'm kind of like, well, why would I do this?
Because, Jocelyn, we're going to put a call out for all of our listeners to go group up in Ungoro in their best Jurassic Park cosplay they can muster in-game.
Ooh,
and we're going to go around killing dinosaurs. Maybe. I don't know. I just put that out there because it sounded cool in my head. I have no idea if we'll actually pull that off. But
that does sound really, really cool.
It'll be hard for plate wearers. It'll be hard for plate wearers to come up with a transmog that doesn't include just missing armor slots.
I was gonna say they just show up naked in a safari hat. I'm here.
I don't remember that scene with Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park, Jocelyn. I don't remember his "Let's Go Streaking." I think you're thinking of Old School with Will Ferrell.
You're right. You got me.
But you're right. That is kind of cool that there's a Zangarmarsh micro holiday that just gives you Zangarmarsh rep or Sporegar rep, I guess.
Yeah, so Spore Rigger is one of the factions that you actually start as, I guess, unfriendly, or like you start in the negative, and you have to. It's a pretty big grind to work your way all the way up. It's like there's 3 of them for the achievement, Spore Rigger, and then I think some of those like upright walking but kind of wolf looking dudes, the ones that killed you a lot when you were trying to get into Winter Spring.
Oh, the Timbermaw?
Yeah, the Timbermaw. And then there's one other faction, and I can't remember which ones. Possibly the orcs in Nagrand.
Did you say they were wolf-looking dudes?
Well, they're kind of.
They're bears. They're bears.
Are they bears?
They're humanoid. Oh. They're bear people. They're furbolgs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not up on my carnivorous humanoid type
mammals
lore.
All right, fair enough. I was just getting it out there. It was less about me, being like, "Excuse me, Jocelyn, they are bear people." I just wanted to save the 5 emails that would come in being like, "They're not wolves, they're bear people." It's like we get it. But you're right. They do kind of.
They're furry and they have big teeth. Okay.
You heard it here first. If it's furry and has big teeth, Jocelyn thinks it's a wolf.
Yep.
Well, what do you think of the Grinch then? Is that just a big green wolf? It's furry and has big teeth, Jocelyn. All right, fair enough. Also on the PTR, legendary items are still seeing some changes to help make all drops feel equal. They said that they feel that if a legendary is only usable in certain situations, it should feel extremely valuable in those situations, and that conversely, if a legendary is near always going to increase your overall performance, that its increase should be relatively smaller.
That kind of makes sense. Either you're kind of sustaining a small level of goodness, or you get, big pows of goodness here and there. So, they have to equal out somehow. And I think that's been the problem with legendaries, is that they haven't been. The sustained goodness has been much, much bigger than even the combined big pows of goodness that you got from the utility items. And they also said in the same blue post that basically, if they could go back and do it again, they would do all utility legendaries as opposed to ones that just like increase your movement or increase your base, like DPS or healing or whatever. They would do things that were much more what's the word I'm looking for? Something is like specific. Situational.
There you go. I was going to say you already used the word utility, which is what I would go with, but situational also functions there. I don't know. For me, I've never liked the idea of having to swap armor. Like, I feel like unless it's just an overall upgrade, like your armor it's like your armor. That's what you're going to battle with. It's what you should just always have it on you. Like I find it weird. Like if I'm about to go fight a dragon, it's like, hold on guys, gotta untie my cape, open up my bag, pull out my other cape, tie it on. All right, now I'm good to fight this dragon. Like I really don't like that from a roleplay aspect. And also just from an in-game aspect, I don't be like, okay, I got to keep all this armor in my bag to swap out depending on the fight.
Yeah, and True Villain Manny in the chat room is also highlighting another issue with legendaries is that certain guilds have been buying tunes because of the legendaries on them, because there is such a hierarchy right now of, what the best legendary is, and you're essentially almost useless without it. In some cases. So they've been actually like buying up tunes so that they could go in and progress in some of the raid content and things. And that's just, it's not good for the game. It's not what Blizzard intended when they started with the whole legendary idea. So, which is also kind of tied into the idea of being spec locked, which is like, if you currently have a legendary in one spec, so for instance, on my hunter, I have the, claws of the apex predator or something like that, and anyways, it's a ring, and it basically locks me into being Beastmaster because it's just the DPS difference is insane. So I now, even though want to try survival, it's going to be a really long time before I get a survival legendary to drop, and then I have to keep my loot spec on survival and everything else because they're totally different in terms of their secondary stat priority and all the rest of it. Like main stat is still agility, but main stat, since it swaps on gear and stuff, isn't really the problem anyway. It's all the secondary stat stuff, and then whatever the like on equip bonus is. It doesn't do anything for me in any other spec. So that's something that they've said is a problem, and they're aware of the problem, but they have no idea how to fix it yet. So it's kind of unfortunate, especially for classes who are very, they have the same role across all their specs. So that if your one job is DPS, so if you're like a mage, a warlock, or hunter, the only job you can do is DPS, first of all, you should probably be the best at that. And then second of all, you should be able to say like, okay, arcane isn't powerful anymore. So since this is my only job, I need to switch to fire, say. And you can't really do that right now because of the way that legendaries work and because of the spec specific stuff. So I'm interested to see how they decide to deal with that, because I think that is a really big issue. Even I think that's a bigger issue than some legendaries being better than others, because all legendaries are still good and useful, but they just may not be as useful. But for me, with the spec locking thing, like that's actually a really big problem.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. I've still only found one legendary. It was in tank spec. It's a cloak for Blood Death Knight. That's okay. It's not one of the best. It's not one of the worst. It's just kind of in the middle. Stat-wise, it's the best in slot for anything I'm going to find anytime soon. So that's totally fine.
9-10, which is what legendaries are currently, is going to be the level of gear dropping from Nighthold on Mythic. So
yeah, I'm not getting there anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be a Mythic Raider in order to get 9-10 gear, and even then it only drops from, I believe, the final boss of Nighthold. So, I mean, like, no one's getting anywhere near 9-10, so no one else is going to have anything to replace those legendary slots anytime soon. So they should be, like, they always will be best in slot for stats, but that's what's happened to me on my Holy Pally. The legendary that I got to drop was when I was in Ret loot spec, because I was doing DPS in a dungeon. So now I do have a legendary cloak, but I heal almost exclusively. So the equip bonus on the cloak doesn't do anything for me.
So you just you're continually in the wrong loot spec, is what I'm hearing.
Well, I've been in, at the time I didn't realize that loot spec would influence legendaries. I thought it was whatever I was playing as. Well, actually, before it dropped, I didn't realize that there were like spec specific ones. I thought that they were just like, I thought that the equip bonus would change based on what spec I was in. So I was like, oh my God, I got a legendary. That's amazing. And then I switched over to Holy and I was like, nothing changed and I don't have this ability anymore. And damn it. So So I've been in holy loot spec ever since, but I just haven't had another legendary drop. So, yeah, I was just an idiot. That was totally my mistake. I didn't know enough about legendaries. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
It was the first legendary I ever had drop was on my paladin.
I didn't research it either. I think we said during Embrace the Spoilers or during the opening episodes of this very podcast that I specifically tried to research Legion as little as possible so that when I got into it, it was a big kind of surprise for me. If for Azeroth continues, that will obviously be impossible going forward, but
yeah, at the time, and I think we did say that at the time we both of us just kind of stayed away from spoilers, didn't want to know the story, knew it was going to be really, really cool, so stayed away from basically everything up until kind of BlizzCon.
Yes, exactly. But I just kind of lucked out because I just kept my loot spec in blood all the time, no matter what I was doing on my Death Knight, because I knew I wanted my best gear to be for tank spec because I was tanking for you guys all the time. So I just kind of lucked out. It wasn't because I had any more knowledge than you did. It was just, I wanted my regular gear to be for tanking, and so my first legendary just happened to also, roll into the right loot spec. So
yeah, and I had at that time kind of been flip-flopping between Ret and Holy, like trying to get a feel for both and running as both in dungeons and stuff, and I still hadn't been, I guess, called up to heal for my raid team, so I was just kind of playing around with
Jocelyn's Paladin, we call on you!
Exactly, which happened like literally a week after I got the legendary for Ret. I was like, Urgh!
We need your holy power to spam a button on a unit frame over and over for hours.
I don't spam heal. I smart heal.
Okay, fine. You get what I'm saying.
I know.
Way to ruin the joke. Thanks, Jocelyn. Anyway, speaking of Nighthold raid, we know when it's going live now. It's scheduled to be rolling into the live server on January 17th. There are going to be 10 bosses. If you don't want to be spoiled about the final boss, jump ahead about, let's say, 2 minutes is probably safe. The final boss is going to be Gul'dan. Surprised to know.
Which, yeah, I was going to say, I feel like this has been pretty well known for quite a while now. They might have even talked about it at BlizzCon with Gul'dan being the final boss, because they talked about a lot at BlizzCon. They went like,
I'm pretty sure it got mentioned there.
Spoilers all the way through like 7.2 and all the raiding and stuff that we were going to do and what was going to happen at the end of that raid and on to what was going to happen in 7.3. So I mean, like the storyline, at least the big major points have been spoiled by Blizzard at BlizzCon already. So I think Gul'dan as the final boss of the Nighthold is like the worst kept quote unquote secret ever.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it can count.
I'm pretty sure it got mentioned at BlizzCon. I just kind of missed it because I was way more excited about the like husk of Sargeras' avatar.
Yes.
Like that seemed cooler to me. I'm like, yeah, we've already fought Gul'dan many times across multiple different versions of Warcraft, not just World of Warcraft, but RTSs. Yeah. So Nighthold's going to drop tier 19. We know you already mentioned that that 910 will be dropping out of Mythic. It starts at 900 and goes up to 910 in Mythic, but we know all the eye levels. So LFR is going to be 855 to 865. Normal will be 870 to 880. Heroic will be 885 to 895, and Mythic will be rounding out the top end with 900 to 910.
Yeah, so LFR for Nighthold is actually giving the same level of gear as normal Emerald Nightmare. So, raid teams like ours who are currently just farming Emerald Nightmare are going to basically go, okay, so what do we do? Do we just go LFR Nighthold instead? Or do we try to knock away at normal? Or because right now our gear from Emerald Nightmare doesn't seem to be enough to go into the same level in the Trial of Valor raid. So we're like bashing our heads against the first boss and not really getting anywhere. So like, do we just go LFR for Nighthold? Seems silly, but
I don't know. The jerk in me goes, maybe you need to take a closer look at those people on your raid team.
Yeah, get good.
maybe get good. Maybe got, somebody's, got a dull dagger or something. I don't know.
Is that a thing? Oh, that should totally be a thing. Sharpening your weapons before you go into battle.
Yeah, I know it's been a thing like way back when. I don't think it's so much a thing anymore. But blacksmiths used to be able to make whetstones. And they'd give you a weapon bonus for like an hour or something. I forget exactly. That makes
total sense to me.
That was old vanilla stuff.
Oh, well, I guess, yeah, maybe. Because I know they've taken away a lot of this stuff and quality of life, blah, blah, blah. But that makes so much sense. I want to be sitting there outside the raid, like sharpening my arrows and my sword and stuff. I guess I can't really sharpen my hammer, but.
Yeah, I'm like, you could blunt it, but don't you do that naturally by smashing things?
By smashing things with it?
Yeah.
Which is even funnier because I don't really smash too much because I'm casting. I'm just casting with one hand and holding a giant hammer with the other.
Well, the hammer is imbued with, holy enchantments.
That's true.
Come on. You know how this works. You're the Lord person, Jocelyn. You should know this. Come on, you should be like, yeah, I'm holding it because it helps me. I'm not just sitting there getting my curling in while I'm raiding.
It infuses me with the spirit of Tyr, which makes sense.
There you go.
But yeah, the cutting edge, speaking of difficulties, the cutting edge and ahead of the curve achievements are no longer going to be available after Nighthold is released. So those are the achievements for defeating Xavius and Emerald Nightmare on Heroic and Mythic. So
before the new raid tier releases, which makes sense that it's going away because that's literally in the description of the achievement.
The achievement is, yeah.
Yes. Otherwise, it's not an achievement.
Exactly.
I mean, it kind of is, but not really. Anyways, let's move into our lore discussion this week. And since it's our last episode before the holiday weekend, Jocelyn, you thought it'd be fun to take a step back from all the crazy ordering of the universe and cosmic entities that made up Azeroth and the entire universe that it exists within. And instead, let's talk about Santa. Let's talk about WoW Santa. Can we? We're going to talk about the Feast of Winterveil today because it exists in World of Warcraft, which means even though you don't think about the lore, it has lore behind it.
Of course it has lore behind it. And it's this is going to be the most like in-game focused lore segment probably that we ever do, but I thought it would be fun to talk about because there is actually a quest that you can do in game where you can go and talk to the leaders of either the dwarves or the Tauren, depending on which faction you are a part of. And basically they send you on a quest to go and find a book, and you can read the book and it actually tells you the story of Winterveil, because those are the two races who kind of take it most seriously or have the most traditions tied to it. So basically, they tell the story of the coming of Winterveil, which is blanketing the land with snow and signals a season of renewal for Azeroth. So Greatfather Winter was a supernatural being who would walk the land late in the seasons, and winter itself would be his billowing cloak, which I just love that visual of this like giant with like this cape made of snow that just like follows him behind like a giant veil or train of snow. I think that's such a cool visual. So in his wake was blanketed by snow, and thus it said the Greatfather Winter would cast his wintry veil over the land, hence Feast of Winterveil. So the dwarves choose to celebrate the season as a recognition of Greatfather Winter himself. They consider him to be either a Titan or a personification of a Titan. And they, as if you guys played through Ulduar and all the Lich King stuff, and you actually get to go in with Bran and, you know, you find out all that stuff, the dwarves are actually descended from the Earthen, which were Titan forged. We talked about that last week. So they have a very close tie to the Titans, and they're constantly trying to find out as much information as they possibly can. So that's what they choose to focus on is Greatfather Winter himself, and they consider their snowy home in Dunmorrow as an example of one of Greatfather Winter's blessings.
Do they explain why for the two different factions, Greatfather Winter is a different race?
Well, no.
I'm aware that happens in our real life here with Santa, but I find it humorous in World of Warcraft where kind of, I mean, a lot of things kind of get spelled out as correct to us. Like,
well, basically, Greatfather Winter as a supernatural being, they basically he if he existed, like the myth is that he was either a Titan or he was Titan forged, but the point is he was this like big giant guy.
Wait, so you're telling me that the Greatfather Winters that we go and talk to in game are just imposters?
Yes.
I actually didn't know this. Okay. Well, Jocelyn, thank you for ruining Christmas in World of Warcraft for me.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Garrett's going to sulk now for a
Now
minute.
you're going to tell me that the Grinch is fake. Or just a pale, knockoff of a beloved children's poem.
Well, I will not tell you that. You can listen to the story because we're going to get to the Grinch in a minute. So you can listen to the story and you can decide for yourself.
All right.
The dwarves are not the only race in Azeroth who choose to celebrate Wintervale. The Tauren, they focus entirely on the renewing aspects of the lore because they are so tied to shamanism and druidism. They're very tied to the land. And so they basically leave legend worship to those races that are less in tune with the nature of things.
So the Tauren think they're high and mighty.
Basically, yes.
Because they're worshiping dirt. Okay, just making sure.
Exactly.
Why do I think Tauren's boring again?
So basically, this is the time where they just, quiet reflection and thank the spirits for their home in Mulgore. But basically, the idea of the actual feast traces its origins back to the legend itself. When Greatfather Winter walked Azeroth, bringing winter in his wake, it said that he would provide a bounty for those who welcomed his presence. So as such, the idea of feasting during Wintervale would bring communities together, and they shared whatever they had. And typically, a single day of merriment and feasting would welcome the change in anticipation of the renewal of the land.
So what I'm hearing is that the Tauren don't get a feast because they hold their nose up at Greatfather Winter.
Well, no. See, they I guess believe in Greatfather Winter. They think that he was a thing, but they choose to celebrate not the man who brought winter, but winter itself. So they focus on the change of the season as opposed to the Titan forged construct, essentially.
That's so less cool. I'm sorry. It's a giant, robot Santa. How can you not want to, celebrate that? That's awesome.
I don't understand why you hate the Tauren so much.
Because of all of the awesomeness in Azeroth, they stick to blades of grass. It's like, guys, there's literal dragons eating people. Maybe build a sculpture to that, because that's cool.
Oh, Garrett. So there are many other races and cultures in Azeroth who have begun to recognize the Feast of Wintervale. That's basically a time of great celebration, but they don't have all the same traditions. Customs are usually unrelated to anything other than a chance for celebration and gift exchange, and have made their way into modern day observations of the season. And basically, this is kind of driven by the goblins specifically, because obviously they're always looking to make a profit. So you have the goblins basically doing all of the buying and selling and transport of all of the goods tied to Wintervale. So the image of Greatfather Winter is sometimes used, but more often he's a harbinger of commercial exploit rather than a supernatural titan. So there you go. Greatfather Winter is he's just a shill for the goblins.
So the goblins are your targets in Walmarts of the Christmas season.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, the goblins actually make up a not necessarily a faction specifically, but I can't remember the name of it. I think it's in the notes somewhere, so I know that we're going to get to it. Oh, Smokywood Pastures.
Yes.
Is the name of their company essentially that does all of the buying and selling and the creation of the big feast and all of the drive behind the gift giving.
And I can't think of the brand, but all that name makes me think of are the kiosks that pop up in the mall that sell sausage and cheese every Christmas. I can't think of the brand off the top of my head, but they sound like they shill salted meats for Christmas.
Yes, well, they basically do, because they're responsible for shipping all the treats. So that is where the abominable Grinch comes into our story. He is a creature who has stolen a shipment of treats from the goblins at Smokywood Pasture, and this is, like I mentioned, who the Tauren and the dwarves think is ruining Wintervale because it's so commercial now.
I love that this is in game.
Yes.
Also voiced by Jim Carrey. No one knows.
Really?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't think that's a thing, Garrett.
It's really not. I was just making a joke. Good to know that my deadpan worked.
It definitely did.
Good to know.
So the Grinch has also kidnapped Metzen the reindeer, who was responsible for the shipment. So we as heroes need to go to find his cave in Hildebrand foothills, and the heroes of Azeroth need to gather to defeat him, save Metzen, and save the feast. And so I did want to remind everybody, and like we said, this is going to be much more game focused than our normal lore segments, but you need to go and defeat the Grinch once a day. He's very persistent and will keep coming back and stealing more and more shipments and kidnapping that poor Metzen.
Yep. I wish he showed up as undead after the first time you kill him, though.
That would be pretty cool.
Resurrected Green Yeti.
And because that gives you a chance at really great loot, including the Winter's Grasp and Flames of Ragnaros weapon enhancements, which basically give your weapon either this really cool fire effect or a really cool kind of frosty, smoky kind of effect for transmogging purposes. So
they're really cool effects. I did not know this was in the game, and then when I read your notes this morning, I was like, I guess I'm killing the Grinch today and every day until I get these.
Yeah,
I did not get them, by the way.
The Winter's Grasp one looks really, really cool if you have any sort of a like frosty kind of a like I'm literally like Frost Death Knights, like
or mages.
You need this.
Yeah, Frost Death Knights, mages, and that's it, right? Who else has frost? Shaman,
I'm not
kind of, sort of.
100% sure if these weapon enhancements actually are able to be transmogged onto all kinds of weapons, because I know specifically my hammer won't let me use some weapon enhancements, because I got that. Do you remember when we ran Karazhan and I got that mongoose thing that I didn't know was a big thing apparently back in vanilla that I've now taken whole big piles of crap for, by the way, but that won't work. That works on my polearm for my survival hunter, but won't work on my hammer. So these enhancements I think work for some weapons and not others, but will definitely work for things like swords. So you guys should get on that, because the Flames of Ragnaros specifically is an epic drop, and it has a very, very low drop chance. But man, it looks so freaking cool.
Yeah, they look great. So does the Ragnaros one. It's like really, really fiery, guys. Like, if you thought like fiery weapon enchant was cool back in vanilla, this is just puts it to shame.
Yep. So there are a lot of different ways that that the different races in Azeroth actually celebrate Wintervale. There's many festivities you can take part of in game. You can say hello to Greatfather Winter, even though he is an imposter.
You're not the real Santa.
In your capital city, and don't forget your milk and cookies. If you bring him milk and cookies, then there's a quest that you can finish up in your capital cities. You can also kiss a reveler, and they give you gifts, I believe, once an hour, like mistletoe and snowflakes, and you need those in order to complete the Wintervale achievements. There's actually a what do you call them when you do a whole bunch of them? Meta achievement.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, well, this is Wintervale, like all of the traditional holidays in World of Warcraft, is part of what a long, strange trip it's been meta.
Yes. So I think there's about 10 achievements that you have to do in order to get your Merrymaker title, and as Garrett mentioned, it goes towards your progress on a long, strange trip. So if you haven't gotten your Violet Proto-Drake, I think it is.
Yes.
Which looks really cool, but is a whole hell of a lot of work. Once I finally finished Long Strange Trip, I was like, this mount's really cool, but I don't know if it was worth it, guys. That was a really, really, really long trip. But you do get your Merrymaker title, which is cool. You can also travel to Hildebrand Foothills or Frostfire Ridge and find piles of snow you can use to create snowballs and start a snowball fight with your friends, which is fun. And if you are around on December 25th and you do want to go into the Siege of Orgrimmar raid, you can see Siegecrafter Blackfuse in his festive getup. His saw blades are made of wreaths, and he's covered in Christmas lights, which is super freaking fun, but it only happens on December 25th. So if you want to go see his merry costume, make sure that you do that. And speaking of December 25th, there's all kinds of goodies and gifts available to you in-game from December 25th until January 2nd. You can go to your capital city and open the gifts under Greatfather's Winter Tree. You get, I believe, 1 per day, so you get 6 gifts altogether. And the gift of the year, because you know there's one every year, Garrett. Yep. The gift of the year this year is the Endothermic Blaster, which is actually a kind of callback to May from Overwatch.
I was about to say, it is an amazing gift.
Oh, God. Boom.
Okay, all right, listen. That is an actual emote from her in the game. It's not that bad.
Yeah, so you can get the endothermic blaster from your gifts. And if you missed out on any of the gifts from past Wintervale celebrations, you can find toy vendors who will sell you their old stock. There's also a lot of recipes and patterns available for food and clothing, and some fun engineering toys that are going to let you make snowballs all year round. So cool.
Yes.
Get it?
Although
cool?
you used to be but didn't. Yeah. I told the story about how we logged into one of Katie's original characters, right? And went through her bank, and there were snowballs from the first ever Wintervale in World of Warcraft.
Yep.
Yeah. Stacks and stacks of them. She had like 260 snowballs, I think, in 20
you never
snowball
know
stacks.
when a fight's going to break out, Garrett.
Clearly. But yeah,
I love to think that part of the Goblin Bank in Orgrimmar that's in the middle of like a desert has this giant freezer for everyone who's ever saved snowballs in their bank. They're just like, really? More snowball? You guys know this is water, right?
Yep. I think I still have a stack of arrows on my original hunter somewhere in the bank. Just collecting dust. True Villain Manny makes a good point in the chat room that I forgot about. Long stream trip it's been used to be a big deal because it gave you the fastest flying in the game without paying the insane gold cost for it.
I see.
Yeah, back in Lich King, that was a huge deal.
That must have been, yeah. So Lich King was pre me. I didn't come until just before Pandaria. So.
Yep. Yeah, this was introduced in Lich King. That's why it was a proto Drake. And it's like damn near pink. I mean, who doesn't want a pink proto Drake? I know it says violet. It's pink. Who doesn't want a pink proto Drake? I don't actually have mine.
I have mine. I did a thing that you haven't done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I find a lot of the holidays excruciatingly boring and not all that fun to go do.
I just really wanted the mount because it was pink.
I really want them out too, but every year I'm like, this is going to be the year. And then I just like, oh, yeah, nope.
Well, and the thing is, like, it can be a really big pain in the ass because if you miss one, then you have to wait a whole other year to do them. So it's like, oh, so disappointing.
Yeah.
Not even if you miss one event, but if you miss like one thing and one achievement or something, man, that could be difficult.
Yeah,
like, I know
I think Noble Garden
specifically Children's Week is tough.
Children's Week sucks, but I think I've actually completed that one. Noble Garden I find just kind of annoying. But I remember the one. I think the first one I ever did was Valentine's, and it was specifically for the title because my warrior is named Fooly Cooley, and I wanted to be Fooly Cooley the Love Fool. And yeah, there you go.
Makes sense.
Enjoy that.
Makes sense.
And anime fans,
there's also
yes.
8 pets that you can collect from the presents. So if you are a pet collector, then make sure that you go and open all the presents underneath your tree. And that is it. That is everything that you can do for celebrating the festivities of Wintervale. And that is the story of why we actually celebrate at all. So I think it's really cool. I think it's really fun. Christmas and also Wintervale it's like my favorite time of year, my favorite season. I love this holiday. It's so much fun. So I encourage everybody to get in there and participate because, like I said, it's a lot of fun. And there's like decorations all over the cities. If you go into Dalaran right now, there's trees and there's like giant snow globes that you can go into. And it's a lot of fun. So make sure you guys get in game and check it out.
Yeah. So with that said, happy Wintervale, everyone. Titans bless us, everyone. We need a Tiny Tim that yells that in multiple capitals. We really do. Little dwarf Tiny Tim just running through, screaming that. That'd be great. Let's take an email or two before we wrap up our pre-Wintervale episode. You can send your emails, by the way, to amovetv@gmail.com. Make sure to include WoW in the subject line. And our first email comes to us from Gooey Guy?
Guy?
I'm not sure. We're just going to call him G. And G writes in and says, hello, Azerothians. How was your day? Well, it would be better if I'm sure I didn't horribly butcher your name. But I'm writing in today because I'm getting some bad vibes from some more seasoned WoW players. What? I've never heard of this happening. I play in a relatively new server, Azeroth US, that launched as soon as Kata hit, which was also when I started playing the game. I feel that
Fun fact, before we go too much further than this, as of, I believe, yesterday, there is now the same amount of time pre-Kata that there is post-Kata. So Kata is now officially the middle of the World of Warcraft timeline.
What the what?
Yeah.
Kata
Now it's
still
becoming
feels
further and further into the past.
Kata feels so new to me still.
I know, but it's actually
really
not.
that's kind of gross.
You played just as much WoW before Kata as you now have since Kata, so.
Ooh. I need to go home and rethink my life. But he said, I feel that I'm constantly rejected from pugs and other LFG groups because I'm from the server, and people think that I'm not as good of a player as they are because I started playing the game later. Also, because it's a Brazilian server, and it seems like many people do not enjoy playing with us because they think we're all trolls and are there only to make their run even harder than they already may be. It even got to the point of group leaders whispering me, saying things like, "You suck because you're from the server, never pug again." This makes playing the game really hard, especially because I play pretty much alone all the time. What do you guys think about that? And I would start this with, I have never experienced this or heard about this type of server shunning in my entire time playing World of Warcraft, which has been the entire time World of Warcraft has been around pretty much.
Yeah, I will say, because I am part of a PvP Facebook group, and so I have seen, like, not so much hate on Brazilian players, but definitely, like, memes about this. And I was like, why don't people like people from Brazil? But it's totally a thing.
I can't believe that.
Apparently, the perception of the WoW community is that Brazilian players are really big trolls, and I'm just like, huh, I didn't know that.
It's hard for me to speak to this because this is news to me, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm playing with Brazilian players. I've definitely encountered plenty of trolls. Whether or not they were Brazilian, I don't know. I don't usually check what server you're from when you're a jerk. I just assume, oh, you're a jerk, and move on with my life.
Yeah. The server hate is really, really interesting to me because we've talked a lot about how to kind of deal with issues when you're already in a group. You know, like you can ignore LFR chat, you can ignore instance chat, all that kind of stuff, and you can just be like, okay, you're being a jerk, you're a jerk, whatever. And actually, this is something I did because I guess not last week, because this last week was the Mythic Dungeon weekly, but the week before was PvP, and we PvP'd together on Monday, Garrett and I, and then I stuck through and I actually PvP'd all the way through Monday and Tuesday, just to try to help some other people do the quest and stuff, and I had a great time PvPing, and mostly it was because I ignored our actual like instance raid chat and just talked to my friends, or even when I was going in solo queue, like I just ignored it and then I just did my job. And it was really, really fun and enjoyable. Imagine that. But if you're getting this kind of stuff before even getting into the group, that's where it gets really, really difficult, because I really don't know how you get around this outside of maybe posting in like trade chat and saying like, hey, anybody want to go do runs because no one else wants to play with us? Like, I really don't know how you get around this.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, if it got this bad, I would just mute chat and just go anyway.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Like when you're doing things like group finders, you're either getting like kicked out, I think, is basically what is happening, or not accepted in the first place. So for things like Mythic Dungeons and content like that, where you have to either say yay or nay to each person coming into the group. It's not quite the same as like the random dungeon finder. So yeah. I guess my only advice there would be maybe if this is such a problem for you, make sure that when you're looking at a group to join, that it's been started by someone on your server, or start your own groups. And I mean, it might take a little bit longer to fill up. If this is this big of a problem, it might take a while for it to fill up, but there's probably a lot of other players like you. So there's nothing wrong with you being the one to create the group and you being the one to filter out the people who don't want to play with you. And that's probably a better way to go about it than trying to join somebody else's group, because anyone can start a group in Group Finder.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good advice. Kind of, just become the leader. if you're having issues with other leaders. That's just so strange. There's so many safeguards now to trolls. Like, what are you afraid of? It's not like they're going to ninja loot or something. That's not a thing anymore. I don't understand this. I don't understand this whole like going that far
mentality?
To be like screening people. Like, okay, what server they're from? I've never done that in my entire lifetime of playing World of Warcraft.
No. The only thing I would get excited when I saw certain servers when I was doing Ashran, because I know they're PvP servers. So I'm like, yes, this person knows what they're doing. Sweet, I'm in. But it was always from a positive, and it's probably just my way of thinking in general, but it was from a place of positivity. Like, I'm excited to play with this person. If the group was run by someone who wasn't from a PvP server, I wasn't like, screw them, they don't know what they're doing. I was just like, oh, cool. All right, well, they're asking for X, Y, and Z. I'm going to go join them. And, if they need help, I'll help them. And, so it was just two different ways of looking at the same server issue, I guess. But I was never like, boo, you suck. You're from, I don't know, Sargeras. Grr.
Yeah, I just... I'm flabbergasted about this. It seems like a lot of effort to go to be a dick.
Yeah, and this is why I included this email this week, because I thought it was really interesting, because it's something that we, as part of AIE, we constantly have a big group of players who are willing to, play with us, help us, like we basically make groups from our guild. So, I don't have that much experience with going outside of the guild when I need to do group things. Usually that's just really late at night or something when there's not that many people around. So, the majority of my WoW time is made up of groups of guild people, and so we don't have these kind of issues. So I thought it was really interesting that even to the point of like server discrimination basically was just something I thought should be addressed, because it's clearly a community issue, but it's something that Garrett and I are not familiar with. So
that being said, AIE does get a lot of crap in trade chat on our server.
Oh yes. Oh, they definitely do. But our group, I think there's something like over 8,000 characters now in AIE. Not necessarily 8,000 people, but 8,000 characters anyways. And so, I mean, there's usually somebody on that you can make a group from who needs to run the same content that you need to run. And so it usually isn't that big of an issue. Even usually we can even get, if you can't get a full group, you can get a 3 or 4 stack, and then you just have to fill in that one spot. And then even if they're an asshole, they're outnumbered. So
yeah, exactly. You need to heal from him more, Jocelyn, just so we can let that fit, that chain pulling hunter just die. So you just be like, no, don't heal him. Don't heal him. I'm not going to taunt, and do not heal him.
He needs to learn a lesson.
Not calling the ambulance, because you're not going to learn anything. So, but good luck to you, man. Hopefully, yeah, I think I'm just perplexed. Jocelyn, I think, had some good advice. I'm sorry that I can't be more helpful. I just want to be like, I just want to stand next to you and be like, no, you're a jerk. Stop being a jerk. Stop being jerks,
being a
people.
jerk.
Yeah. No, just don't be a dick. Like, how hard is that? It's like the life's golden rule. Don't be a dick. Like,
that's really hard for some people, Garrett.
It's
really hard.
It really is. I don't give a crap what server you're from. Like, as long as you're pulling your weight in the dungeon, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, good God, like even if your DPS sucks, man, whatever, we can get by.
Yeah.
So, anyway, who's our next email from?
Next email comes to us from Ross Tiger. It says, "Hi guys, love your new show. It gives me my lore fix while I can't play Legion because I don't have any money or time. I was wondering what your favorite single moment in Warcraft lore is. The one that sticks with me most is questing in Northrend and coming across a dwarf who lost his memory. Not thinking anything of it, I continued on with the quest and ended up in a strange ice cave. An in-game cinematic started, and I soon realized to my glee it was showing me Arthas accepting Frostmourne and killing Muradin. Sad face. I thought this was cool enough that I was in the same cave, but wait, Muradin isn't dead? He simply lost his memory? As all the pieces fell into place and I realized who the dwarf was that I had just spoken to, my mind was blown and I sat in awe for hours. I logged off and didn't play for days because nothing could top that after loving Warcraft 3 so much growing up. So, Garrett, do you have a single favorite moment in Warcraft lore?
In lore?
Lore
God,
is
it's
difficult because, like,
hard.
as we've kind of experienced, lore is huge, right? So
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, all of the moments like what Ross Tiger had here, I had many of these in Lich King. And as a matter of fact, this very moment that he's or she is talking about it was a big one for me because I had the same thing. I kind of stumbled on it naturally. I didn't know. It's not like the geography of Northrend was explicit when you played through Warcraft 3. So I didn't know that the cave was that close to where I was questing, and so like when I ended up in there, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's just a cave, whatever. And then like the flashback, like ghosts start happening. I'm like, holy shit, this is the cave where he found Frostmourne. Like I lost my mind. But as for my like single favorite lore moment, oh man, that's hard. That's really hard.
I have a lore moment, but I don't necessarily like. For me, it comes from a book, which probably, if anyone knows my history with Warcraft, that shouldn't really be surprising. There's a lot of moments that I guess, while questing through Warcraft, I didn't understand because I hadn't read the books yet, and a lot of, dungeon and raid content that I missed out of, so big story holes and stuff like that. So my in-game experience is probably not as great until Legion. I think Legion is the first one where I've actually really had an appreciation for the in-game questing, and I think going into Azuna and finding the Court of Ferrandis was probably my like, oh my god, this is amazing type moment in Legion. But it's, in terms of probably my favorite part of the lore, it actually is a scene that I feel they really did not do justice to in the Warcraft movie, and it is Duratan and Draka fighting to the death to protect Thrall, and then putting him in the basket and sending him down the river. I think that is probably my single favorite Warcraft moment.
They did not do justice to that at all. They did not do justice to that at all in the movie.
I know.
It was
very disappointing.
Extremely disappointing.
Yeah.
Extremely disappointing. Yeah. I mean,
but basically what's supposed to happen is like the whole Frostwolf clan is supposed to be, running from agents of Gul'dan, and it's very much a last stand of Duratan and Draka and a couple of other Frostwolf warriors against overwhelming odds and all of these numbers, and basically taking down 5 orcs for every one of them to protect the baby. And it's this amazing scene, and it's written in Rise of the Horde. It's by Christy Golden, who's a fantastic writer anyway, and just it's so emotional, and it's my favorite. Is just the kind of the exchange between them before they die, and why they die, and trying to give their son a new life. And it's an amazing scene, and they did not do it justice in the movie at all. But it's probably my favorite of all of the lore things. And I mean, there are a lot of contenders for sure, so it makes it a really hard decision to make. But I think that's mine.
Yeah, like, if individual moments, I don't think I really have one, but if something that invokes lore without being all that much lore itself, like if I had to pick just one thing where I'm like, well, this gives me chills because of all of the implications it has about the history of this character, it's the cinematic intro for Wrath of the Lich King. The VO by Arthas's father, by King Tyrannus.
Yeah.
Is just insane when you play that over what Arthas has become.
To be completely honest with you, and I know you're going to tell me I need to go do it right now, but I don't even think I've ever seen that.
The Wrath of the Lich King intro cinematic.
No.
If you do not leave watching that with your skin being a 100% replica of a plucked turkey, you have no soul.
And I was gonna say, like, so I'm either I haven't seen it, or it's possibly like it plays between expansions when you're first going to Northrend. I don't know, but
it does not.
One way or another, like I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have had any context for who Arthas was, or any context for who Tyrannus was. Especially, like, at least I knew Arthas was the Lich King, but that was about it. Mm-hmm. Chat room is currently telling me I need to go do it right now.
Now, it is the king. It is Arthas's father giving him, like, the greatest speech you could ever hope to hear a king say to his son, like talking about how to rule correctly, and how, like, the greatest thing a king can do is stir the hearts of his people. And when that line like when that line comes across, you see the Scourge army and their eyes light up, and these soulless husks rise from the ice while Arthas is summoning Sindragosa.
He did kind of stir the hearts of his people.
Yes,
he brought them back to life.
And that's what's so wonderful about it is it's these words from a father to his son that is it's nothing but the hope for the great things his son will go on to accomplish, and it's playing over the single most evil entity that currently exists on the planet. Like it's and so that juxtaposition is so perfectly achieved in this like 2-minute video that I love it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely missed out on that.
Go watch it right now.
The thing that I have done is the I guess Caverns of Time, the culling of Strathholm. So would that kind of be again like up there with one? Because I know obviously your moments are going to be tied to Arthas, and it seems like for whatever reason, a lot of people have this like amazing nostalgia for Arthas and just that expansion and him as a bad guy and all the Death Knights and everything else.
When we first started playing Warcraft 3, like it's like, oh yeah, this is our Johnny hero. Like he's blonde, he's a paladin, he's gonna go be the hero, and then like shit gets dark real fast. And then that cinematic happens where he kills his father, and you're just like, for me, who had stayed away from RTSs entirely because they just look lame, and I didn't think they could tell a story worth telling. That blew my mind. That was the point where I became a Blizzard fanboy. That moment that Arthas in his Death Knight armor, marches down the streets of Lordaeron and kills his father. That was the shifting point for me where I became a Blizzard fanboy.
So there you go. That's your lore moment.
No, but that like particular lore, like that actual part, like when I think about everything that's happened in Warcraft, that's like whatever. Like there's so much more interesting parts after that, I think.
Well, no, I mean, and that's true, but I mean, it's not even necessarily about what the, most interesting moment in Warcraft lore is. It's what moment means the most to you. So I would say that's your moment when you became a Blizzard fanboy. For me, it was the reason I picked the Thrall moment is basically because like that whole story that kind of climaxes with that scene is the first time that I really understood like what it meant to be Horde, the idea of the orcs and how, I'm not actually evil. Like there is no good faction and no evil faction, like it's all shades of gray. And that book and that moment kind of made me realize that. So that's why it's my moment. So I think your moment is when you finally went, oh, I'm in.
Well, yeah, I'll give you that. But I've told that story before, and I just felt it was kind of a cop-out answer. So
I hadn't heard that story
if I had to watch one scene from Warcraft the rest of my life, it would be the Lich King intro cinematic. So there you go.
I'll go watch it right after this, guys. I promise.
Yeah. Anyways, Ross Tiger, thank you for that trip down memory lane, and also one more thing in my life where I get to go, Jocelyn, what's wrong with you? How have you not seen this? But that's okay. It's okay.
Because of when I started in Warcraft. I started just before Pandaria.
Which is not something that should be shamed, which is why it's okay. Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you if you're dropping us 5-star reviews in the iTunes store. It helps the show out a lot. This episode, let's thank Smarvy, who is apparently ecstatic that we started a WoW podcast. Also, thank you to Scott Simon and Damien2787. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes, pretty much wherever else you can find podcasts, and also youtube.com/AMoveTV if you want to see our beautiful shining faces. And you can catch us live Mondays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/AMoveTV. Reminder, no show next week. Taking a break for Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone. Hug someone you love. Enjoy your family. Unless it's awkward and you just avoid those awkward conversations at the table. It's Thanksgiving part 2, guys. You know the rules. You know the rules. You know what to avoid at the table. But anyways, Joss, when you're not for Azerothing, where can folks find you? When you're not fazzing.
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays. I also wanted to take a moment to remind you guys that there are actually just over, 11 days left to donate to our Extra Life campaign. We do it every year. We play games for 24 hours. We actually did our gameplay back on Halloween, so you can check out Twitch if you want to check out any of those VODs. But yeah, we raised, we're just short. We're about $100 short of our $3,000 goal this year. So if you would like to support the campaign, you can do that. It's tax deductible, and 100% of the proceeds go to the Children's Miracle Network of Hospitals. So if you'd like to support us, I would really appreciate it. It's at bit.ly/TGI2016, TGI in capitals, and then make sure that'll bring you to our roster page. Make sure you actually go and choose a person below to donate to. Otherwise, the donation goes to Extra Life as a whole and not specifically to our campaign. So I would really appreciate the support in this season of giving, and it goes to a really worthy cause. Not only do the children's hospitals actually help children recover from really horrible things like diseases and accidents, but also they provide services that are not necessarily generally hospital things, because they're children's hospitals, so they do things like have game rooms and activity rooms that most hospitals don't have, and so therefore aren't in the budget. So that's what this donation and charity money goes to, is to making the stay of the sick kids a little bit happier at this time of year.
I actually spent an entire month when I was very young in a children's hospital, and this type of stuff made it a lot more bearable. So I think it's a good cause, Joss, and I'm glad you do this every year. So go donate, folks, if you haven't. Other than that, I've got nothing but selfish things to shill. Follow me on Twitter at Garrett Art, and go to amove.tv to check out all the other shows. But until next time, for Azeroth.